Hey, what's going on, guys? I hope you all are doing well today. Elliot here. Welcome back to The Fragrance Well. We got a long list today, guys. We got 15 fragrances with one thing in common. All of them could be worn with just 2 sprays. So yeah, we're talking about some strong fragrances today. We know in the community, everybody likes a fragrance that is strong, essentially, something that you don't have to necessarily worry about projection or longevity. We know this is something that people like. So today I'm gonna feature at least 15 fragrances, all from different brands in my collection that I know you could wear them with only 2 sprays. Let's get into it. Okay guys, so before we get started, let me just emphasize, when I say you could wear them with only 2 sprays, it doesn't mean that you shouldn't wear them with more than 2 sprays. A lot of these fragrances here I either have worn or like to wear with more than 2, but I know that they are strong enough that 2 could be enough in a certain scenario or just all together. So, first off, from the House of Versace, this is Eros Flame. Any of the Eros fragrances, as far as I'm concerned, could be worn with just 2 sprays. But I actually don't mind wearing this one, so I'm gonna talk about Eros Flame. I'm not gonna go into too much detail about how the fragrances smell. We got 15 of them, so I'm just gonna kind of run it along here. So this one has some heavy citrus in the top. It's quite sweet, as is known for the Eros fragrances. This one, compared to the original Eros formulations, has a lot more of a spicy accords going on with it. But just like the original Eros fragrances, they push off the skin very well. They last all day long. This one is no different. So in a certain scenario where you may want to rein that in, 2 sprays would be just fine for this fragrance as well as any of the Eros ones. Yes, this is not a fragrance I particularly like to wear, but I don't have to love or like something to know whether or not you can wear it with just 2 sprays. So once again, from the House of Versace, Eros Flame 2 spray approved. All right, next up, coming from the House of Montal, this is Intense Cafe. Montal Intense Cafe. Now, Montal obviously has a lot of fragrances just in general, and a good number of them are known for being very strong fragrances. So if you've had any experience with any Montal fragrances, you shouldn't be surprised. This one can work with just 2 sprays. So this is one of the more popular ones from the house. It is a rose, coffee, sweet vanillic fragrance, kind of milky, lactonic, if you will. The coffee in here is not super strong, so it's kind of misleading to some people. It's more reminiscent of like a latte, if you will. But it is 2 spray approved. It does not take a lot of sprays for this fragrance to get the job done, unless you just want to come off a lot stronger. But under most situations, yeah, only 2 sprays is needed with this one. Once again, from the House of Montal, Intense Cafe. All right, and since we talked about Montal, might as well do Mancera since they're under the same brand umbrella. This is Mancera's Red Tobacco. Mancera's Red Tobacco. Similar to Montal, Mancera does have a lot of fragrances that are known for being all day lasting and strong fragrances, but this one is probably one of the most popular for none other than that reason. This is kind of it's a sweet and spicy tobacco fragrance, known for having kind of a tough opening. I think that's mostly attributed to the saffron accord in here, but once that calms down, the fragrance just becomes this warm, sensual, sexy, sweet tobacco beauty powerhouse. Personally, this is another one I personally don't mind spraying more than twice, but let's just be honest, if you're gonna go higher than 2 times, unless you're in the middle of winter and you're gonna be outdoors, you might be a little too strong with this one, so err with some caution and know where you're going and who you're gonna be around. But no doubt about it, Red Tobacco is 2 spray approved. Okay, and the next one's coming from the House of Viktor and Rolf. This is Spicebomb Extreme. Viktor and Rolf Spicebomb Extreme. A blend of lots of warm and fresh spices mixed with some cozy, warm, and sexy bourbon vanilla. With a name like Spicebomb, you would expect that the fragrance would be a strong fragrance, and it is. Spicebomb, the original fragrance, is known for having some really good performance and good projection. This one is no different. So depending on where you're going, 2 sprays could probably be more than enough for this fragrance. Again, in certain situations, you might want to spray a little more. I don't have a problem with it. I certainly tend to spray more than 2 when I do wear this. I haven't worn it in a while. I think I want to give it some wears when it cools off a little bit here this year. But it is definitely 2 spray approved. Spicebomb Extreme from Viktor and Rolf. Moving on, next up from the House of Jean Paul Gaultier, this is Le Male Parfum. Jean Paul Gaultier's Le Male Parfum. This fragrance here, powdery, spicy, warm sensual vanilla, and aromatic with lots of lavender. A great modern take on that original Le Male DNA. This one is great for projection, it's great for sillage, it's great for longevity. All of those things combined to making it a 2-spray approved fragrance. Again, depends on where you're going, depends on what you're doing, but this has a great date night DNA, which for me personally, if I was gonna wear this for a date night, I would only spray 2 sprays because remember, for date night, at least in my opinion, you don't wanna come off too strong with your fragrance. You actually want your date to come close to you and get more of the fragrance. So if you're spraying it a million times, what's the point if they can smell you from across the room? Once again, from the house of Jean Paul Gaultier, 2-spray approved. This is Le Male Les Parfums. Definitely interested in trying the Elixir at some point. All right, so the next one's coming from the house of Amouage. This is Interlude Black Iris. Interlude Black Iris. The original Interlude, I think would, well, no, not I think, I know would work for this list as well. Matter of fact, a lot of Amouages would work for this list. This one here is a fresher take on the original Interlude, very incense heavy, very smoky, a lot of leathery undertones. This one's freshened up with a nice note of iris and removed some of the other opening notes that in the original Interlude that made it a little bit more difficult for some people. I do like this one, but I like the original better, but it wears the exact same. You don't need a ton of sprays for anybody to pick it up. Personally, because I like this DNA so much, I go like 4 to 5, but 2 honestly would work just fine. Let's just call this the Interlude DNA for the person who may think the original Interlude is just a tad bit too much for them. This is just a fresher version of it in my opinion. Once again, Amouage, Interlude Black Iris. Next up from the house of Orto Parisi, this is Bergamask. Bergamask from the house of Orto Parisi. Really this entire house, again, similar to a lot of the houses we've talked about so far, all the fragrances are pretty much very strong and could be worn with just 2 sprays. This one is no different, even though it is a warm weather scent, which is awesome. You're primarily gonna get bergamot, some woody accords, and a lot of musk, a very deep musk with this one. Almost animalic, but not quite. This one here has amazing projection and sillage, where 2 sprays honestly could be more than enough for this fragrance, definitely depending on where you're going. If you're gonna be outside a lot, I like to spray it a little bit more, but if I'm in a situation where I don't wanna come off too strong, with my fragrance choice, 2 sprays of this is more than enough. Great fresh fragrance, very crowd pleasing, smells absolutely amazing in the air. 2 spray approved for sure. Orto Parisi's Bergamask. All right, I think we're about halfway there. From the house of Resala, this is Hawas. Resala, Hawas. All right, so this one, if you probably heard about it already, it's definitely gotten talked about more than a few times in the community. It's fruity, it's fresh, not very realistic smelling, but very playful, very fun, very pleasant in the air, a great summertime, fresh and sweet fragrance. Like you'll often see with a lot of Middle Eastern houses, the fragrance is definitely not weak, has a lot of push off the skin, and tends to have some pretty good longevity as well. This one is no stranger to that. You just kind of have to like the juvenile nature of it. I'm not the biggest fan of these style of fragrance, but this one is done in a way that I actually really enjoy. And in the event you don't want to come off too strong with a scent profile like this, 2 sprays will absolutely work. Once again, from the house of Resala, Hawas. Okay then, next one's coming from the house of Arabian Oud. This is Resala. Arabian Oud's Resala. This one is saffron, rose, and oud with chocolate and vanilla. That's it. That's what the fragrance is, very chocolatey. It does have a bit of a screechy opening, primarily coming from that saffron, but it settles down into this beautiful, sexy, yummy fragrance. If anybody has an experience with this fragrance, they can tell you firsthand that this one does not require a lot of sprays. You can certainly go heavier with the sprays, like I said in the beginning of the video, but you don't need to. Great date night scent in my opinion, which again, if you're going on a date with a fragrance like this, you don't need to overspray it anyway. So 2 sprays approved for sure. This is Arabian Oud's Resala. All right, so this next one's coming from the house of Parfum de Empire. This is Ambre Rousse. At least I think that's how you say it. Parfum de Empire's Ambre Rousse. First of all, this fragrance is stunning. It is absolutely mind-blowing if you like amber fragrances. It's a new one in my collection. I haven't even given it a full wear yet, but I have tested it with 1 spray on my arm, and that was pushing off my skin for more than 24 hours. So I don't think I need to do too much more testing to know that this fragrance here has amazing sillage and projection, and given the situation in which you're wearing it, 2 sprays would be more than enough. It is first and foremost an amber fragrance supported with some resins, a little bit of an incensey vibe, and a good number of spices. Beautiful composition. Once again, from the house of Parfums, the Empire, Ambre Rousse. Can't wait to wear this later on when it cools down. Okay, so this next one's coming from the house of Roja Parfums. This is Danger Parfum pour Homme. Roja Parfums, Danger Parfum pour Homme. Another house where, while not all of them are good enough for just 2 sprays, a lot of them are. There's a lot of fragrances from this house where honestly 2 sprays can do you just fine. I primarily get lavender from this one, supported by a lot of spices and woody accords. I think the most I've ever sprayed this fragrance is 5 times. That probably was too much. I would say the sweet spot for a lot of occasions is 4, and depending on the occasion, 2 would be more than enough. I just like to wear slightly heavy with my fragrances. Let's just say if I were gonna wear this right now in the middle of summer, I would probably only spray it 1 time. Great sillage and projection on this one as well. So once again, from the house of Roja Parfums, Danger Parfum pour Homme. All right, so the next one's coming from the house of Mason Francis Kurkdjian. This is Oud Satin Mood Extrait de Parfum. MFK's Oud Satin Mood Extrait de Parfum, the eau de parfum would work as well. Very strong, very rich and heavy, syrupy almost, vanilla, rose and oud, spices, saffron, cinnamon. I mean, hey, it's one of the most popular from the house for a reason. Great date night scent, great elegant, just night out scent, very unisex, and of course, very, very strong. I don't think I've ever worn this for more than 4 sprays, and honestly, that was too much. So from now on, I don't think I'm gonna go over 3, but that means 2 sprays would certainly be more than enough for this fragrance. Anybody that's had any experience with this fragrance or the eau de parfum knows, yeah, 2 sprays could be enough, just depends on how strong you wanna come off or where you're going. Once again, Mason Francis Kurkdjian, Oud Satin Mood. Next up, coming from the house of Bond number 9, this is NoMad. Bond number 9's NoMad. This is also a rose oud fragrance, but it has a lot more fruits in it. There's some pear, there's some quince in it. It's very, very sweet, does lean a little bit more feminine, but has a nice projection to it. So depending on where you're going, once again, 2 sprays could work for this fragrance as well. Not too many people talk about this fragrance. I think it's just done in a way that's just not meant to appeal to everybody. It has a very elegant taste to it, but once again, like I said, it's extremely fruity, so you know that's gonna turn off a lot of men, let's just be real, but the fragrance has some push to it. It is 2 spray approved. Once again, Bond number 9's NoMad. All right, we're almost there. We only got 2 left. From the house of Christian Dior, this is Sauvage Elixir. Dior Sauvage Elixir. Obviously, honestly, any of the Sauvages would work for this list. I just chose to go with the strongest one, you know, the nuclear one, which is Sauvage Elixir. Spicy, lavender, lots of cinnamon, lots of licorice in it, and of course a lot of ambroxan as well. This is another one I don't think I've sprayed more than 4 times, and I definitely found out in the worst way possible that you don't have to spray a lot of this. I wore it in the dead heat of summer one time when I had to do some stuff outdoors. Talk about overwhelming. Let's just say that memory alone is enough to tell me that this fragrance can definitely work in most scenarios with only 2 sprays, if not 1. Once again, Dior Sauvage Elixir. All right, and last but certainly not least, from the house of Salvatore Ferragamo, this is Uomo Signature. Salvatore Ferragamo Uomo Signature. Now, personally, I like the original Uomo better than this one. I like that how the tiramisu-like accords come across much better in that one, but there's no denying that Uomo Signature is a much stronger fragrance, and I would say the intense sweetness of this one is better for the 2 spray argument. This one has spices, a lot of sweetness to it. To me, this one's a lot less gourmand than the original Uomo, to be honest. But it has those gourmand-like touches. Still has the coffee accords in it as well, but yes, this fragrance is very strong and certainly 2 spray approved depending on what you're doing. To be honest, I don't know where you'd be going to where you need to spray this more than 4 times unless you're gonna be outside in a snowstorm and you wanna spray it like 8 times and cut through a snowstorm. To which, you know, I would ask, why do you need to be smelled in a snowstorm? Who wants to be outside in that? But to each his own. Anyway, this is 2 spray approved. Salvatore Ferragamo's Uomo Signature. All right, guys, we finally made it to the end. That was 15 fragrances where you only really need 2 sprays in most situations. Thanks for watching until the end. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit that bell icon so you can be notified when I upload new content. Remember to be well and smell well, and I will see you in the next episode of The Fragrance Well. Have a good one.